Hey everybody out there in YouTube land, I'm Pocan Joe, and as always, you're pretty cool for coming by. Let's fix our seat here, let's look you in the face, and let's have a good show today. So if you haven't known, we had a hurricane come up the East Coast. Everything is fine here. We've had some minor flooding and some minor damages, but nothing really major. So as far as I know, everybody's good. If not, comment down below. We'll come to you. That's not a problem. Okay, so without further ado, if you don't know what's going to happen next, basically we're going to run down the comic books that I picked up on Wednesday and do a quick synopsis or review of them, and if there was anything really kind of interesting in them. This week was a heavy load. Just to give you a warning now, this video is going to be a few minutes if you didn't already see the timestamp down below. So let's move on without further ado and talk about this, Red Range Pirates. This is kind of a weird book. It starts off as a Western, and then it goes into like this kind of journey to the center of the earth slash lost world type thing. They're basically in a land with dinosaurs. So we have two African Americans escaping some racial stuff that happened, right? Like a family got hung from the little boy, and the hero tries to come in and save it, and then they end up trying to escape, and they're in another world. Let's just go there, the other world. Dinosaurs and stuff going on there. Obviously, the boy's got some resentment from this. He has a bad habit of calling white people cracker in it, which is understandable for what happened to him. Watching his parents get hung and all, yeah, I can kind of deal with that. But then what we find out is that the white guys in this world are chasing another black guy, and the black guy can only say one word. And of course, they feel obligated to help the black guy. But come to find out, the pirate, the white pirate, is actually not the one in charge. The one in charge is a female black pirate in charge of the whole thing, which completely changes the tone of the story. I liked that part of it. I thought that was funny. Well, maybe not funny, but maybe just kind of oh, okay, we're not going this route. I enjoyed that. And come to find out, the person who can only say one word, who's escaping the pirates, has a map that could lead them back to their original world because she's from this earth as well. So that was pretty cool. All in all, I thought this was kind of an amateur book, though. This is something that I would kind of see like a second year, third year comic book maker type story thing going on. It didn't seem like something that was hardcore from the professionals that actually wrote this. So that was kind of weird. I don't know if I'm going to get issue 2. We'll see. It depends. Moving next, Midnight Vista. This was a pretty good story, right? It was okay. Basically, we got now there was some chatter going on about this. I should mention this first. I've read some things where it was, oh, this is an actual account of somebody that's involved with the book, or then I heard something else. No, they interviewed this person. It's their actual account, and then somebody else said, no, the thing is inspired by somebody. I don't know. It's an alien abduction. Who knows? I do know how this story went, though. And basically, we got a young boy who hangs out with his stepfather because his dad's apparently a jerk or something. Mom has issues with him. Stepdad takes him out for ice cream. You know he's like the cool stepfather, or the one that tries to be cool, I should say, because he's got like cargo pants and sandals on. Yeah, I don't know if that's going to focus, but you get the idea. He's that guy. Yeah. Okay. So they go and they get the ice cream, and lo and behold, the aliens pick them up. And then, boom, a few years later, drops them back. I really liked this transition right here. I thought that was really nice because we didn't have to go into long explanations. He's back. He's a grown man now. He gets shot at. He gets hit by a car. Finally, ambulance, cops pick him up. And, of course, he's having flashbacks from his experience on the ship. Pretty gruesome. You would think with them being able to travel interstellarly as fast as they do, or whatever our concept of that is, that they basically wouldn't be tearing apart some kid like your local butcher on a rib. But, you know, whatever. So we're moving on. Kids in the hospital, they get a DNA test, you know, because that's a thing. They get blood samples because that's a thing. Fingerprints because they think that's a thing. They thought the stepfather abducted the kid, and they just want some answers right now. And the kid leaves off with, I was abducted by aliens. And he's eating ice cream, which is just a weird way to look at that. And then we're left with this beautiful concept of this Men in Black scenario, but they're not really men. Right? Because they totally speak. It actually says in the speech bubble, talk casually. So that means he's saying it. I thought that was kind of funny. Oh no, this is a good story. I think I'm going to go ahead and pick up issue 2 of this, just because I think it's a fun read to have. If you read a lot of comic books and they start getting a little drawn down, it's good to have something like that in there. It kind of lifts up the spirits. The artwork's beautiful in it, and the dialogue and the story's cleverly written. Generally, I believe that. So I would recommend it. Moving on, Mysterio. This I didn't know this was a character that already exists. I don't get a whole lot of Xenoscope stuff, but they had a lot of covers for this, and I thought it was a new character because I don't really follow Xenoscope any. And of course, I was wrong. She's from a previous team of people that kind of had like voodoo type powers. They raised the dead, they magic, right? Her thing is she can raise the dead, deal with ghosts, that whole 9 yards. So she starts off as a scam artist. That's our hero, scamming old rich people for money, and then complain when they try to shortchange them. I don't know. Apparently, that's a thing. Um, but basically, the majority of the story just basically turns into um, her life, how hard she had it growing up homeless, how she volunteers and overworks in a homeless shelter, and yada, yada, yada. We get a couple of cool things from her past, but there's literally like one splash page of it. It's really not much of anything. All in all, I thought this was boring. It read like a Wikipedia page more than it did a comic book. We know that there's a bad guy out there. Why is he killing people? We don't know. We just don't know. It's weird. Apparently, there's like a Thor type hammer that's involved because they killed one of the homeless people. Look, I know I'm not doing a good review on this one because it's just not that good of a book. Like I'm struggling to find things to talk about. So, all right, next. Something is killing the children. Now, I didn't understand this cover until I actually read the book. First off, this is just beautifully written. It kind of takes the whole boys hanging out playing Truth or Dare. First off, I never played Truth or Dare with a bunch of boys. It kind of defeats the purpose of the game. Yeah. That's what that game's for. Anyway, they're all having a sleepover. You kind of get this Wonder Years type vibe from these kids. And they're ball busting each other a little bit. And then something happens in the woods that actually kills all the kids. And only one survivor is there. The one who kind of instigated the whole story. And then we get this beautiful page to remind you what the name of the book is. Then we meet our hero. And I didn't really understand this in the beginning, and I'm glad that I didn't. Because basically she's coming out of the woods, and there's this little girl in a red wagon. And she's like missing an arm, her legs are gone, she's got an eye patch on. And this girl's coming out, and I'm thinking, oh crap, this is the girl that kills all the boys. Why is this girl in a wagon here? Like, I didn't get the transition. And most times that would annoy me, but I really liked it here because it really sets you up for this great story. Because we find out on the next page that sure enough, she's a monster hunter and she's there because the little girl needed her help. So she's going to go take care of business. We get the cool scene with the one survivor boy in school telling everybody to go themselves. Principal seems pretty cool. He's like that hip principal that nobody ever really had, but you always saw in like 90s sitcoms. Yeah, that guy. So our heroine is this girl. She meets up with the boy and she's like, look, you need to cut the crap and just tell me what you saw in the woods. You're telling everybody you didn't see anything. This garbage. What's going on? And he's like, all right, this is basically what happened. Blam! Then we get this gore fest, right? Just blood, guts, elbows everywhere. And then we see the monster itself. And then we get something really cool because the boy generally was kind of cowardly, but then all of a sudden she's like, "Well, I'm going to go into the woods and I'm going to take care of it." And he's like, "Well, what can I do to help?" You know, and I was like, "Okay, all right." There's our little come to manhood moment. That's pretty cool. All in all, this was a great book. Nothing really deep in it yet because they did too much setting up in it. But if I had to speculate, I think we're going to get some real good coming into adulthood type story, which would be fascinating. I would like to see that in it. So we'll see that in the next issue. Berserker Unbound. Finally, our barbarians and our world, they go into town. He speaks a different language than his homeless friend, even though they don't want to admit they're friends, and even though our homeless guy doesn't want to talk, he talks a lot. A lot of dialogue in this, but that's the whole point, because this whole story is about communication and how we communicate, and when we can't communicate, how things can kind of get lost. All the important stuff in here could be communicated in some other way than talking, but the major points that tell their difference, like I'm from another world, I need to get back to my world, are generally lost in translation. So yeah, I liked this. This was good. It's somewhat deep. Not bad at all. I would definitely check it out. That's my phone. Oh, we got a little. Okay, so we got a little bit of a flash flood warning right now. Nothing to worry about though. Moving on to Space Bandits. This is great. So, people that screwed her over are living their fantasies and dreams right now. One's really wants to run a spa, right? So they drop that body. It's a revenge story. That's the whole point of this. But it's a good revenge story that's not relying too much on rhetoric or tropes. They're really kind of breaking away and doing their own thing. The better second half of the story is this kind of sex depravity thing that's going on, where the guy just cannot get enough sex. He's on a special ship where that's all they do is just poke at each other all the time, and he has these crazy fantasies. This is all about your fantasies, getting what you wish for by whatever means necessary, and it coming back and biting you in the butt. Like, that's legitimately kind of our overarching story here, because that's what the girls are going to do. Very graphic. Not something for kids. But all in all, I'm really liking this, and I can see why Netflix picked this up or is currently looking at this to be a show. I think they do a good job with it. I can't imagine them going too far off of the actual comic book itself. These arrived today, and I got to read them. The Goon. All right, so we find out we got a mysterious mobster working in the shadows, and he has an ape man in a suit. That helps him. He's legitimately an ape. And the ape can go toe-to-toe with the Goon, like, with no problems. Like, they fight it out in here. This is good stuff. I like the cheesiness of this. And again, this has probably the most unique dialect of any comic book that I've read thus far. It really puts you into the story. This is definitely not a spec book, but this is definitely a reader. I just like the dialect and the way they set up the story in this. It's fun. And how smoothly it transitions from one to the other. Great stuff. Next one is Defying Devil. This is garbage. I don't know what's going on in this. In the first episode, we got, okay, some people want to kick some old people out of a house. Yada, yada, yada. Got it. He's going to stop them. So he takes an old lady to the grocery store, and then they change to a movie set for no reason. He tries to explain that something about a portal. I get that writers that want to take shortcuts will say things like, it's a portal. What? Is it a magical portal? Is it science fiction? You want to give me a clue here, Slick? Like, what is going? Why is this happening? You don't get explanations in this. You get shut up and buy your money, because I took a Golden Age hero, and I got a good artist that did some great splash pages in this. I would show them to you, but I don't want you to have to buy the book. Like, oh, that's beautiful. The rest of the book must look that way. No, it doesn't. It's all a farce. Next is Wired. I like this. If you're kind of like, you like spy movies or reading spy stories, and you like John Constantine as a character, not as a superhero magician, but just the way he deals with things, this is a great story. We're moving into this. This is like a cross between John Constantine, without magical powers but still can't die, and Brightburn. Yeah, I said it, Brightburn. There's a little kid with superpowers in this. It is crazy. I'm enjoying this. No deep meaning behind it. This is just story. Next, I got of course, I got the Spawn number 300. I went with this Virgin variant right here. This is a 1 in 25. What's the deep meaning behind it? Nothing. It's a Spawn story. Hellfire, yada, yada, yada. Like, I shouldn't have to get too deep into that one. All right, moving on. Let's do some. Where are we at in my notes? We're on to DC. Let's do some DC. Okay. Legion of Superheroes, Millennium. So Rose/Thorn is back, apparently. She lives for some reason in the future. She stopped aging randomly. Didn't realize that she wasn't aging. How do you not know that? I don't know. So she goes to Supergirl for some answers. No real answers. We do get a pretty cool story in here with Batman Beyond. Right? That was pretty cool. The problem with this is that there's no consistency through this thing. We get Camdy. He's in it again. Apparently it's okay to kill his monkey friends. Nobody really cares. And you're done. Literally, that's how fast you get through this book. I don't know why they keep pushing this Rose Thorn character on us. She's not very interesting. We get it. There's a dual personality. You're playing off the nice part and the rage part of people. You have tons of other characters that make it a lot more interesting than Rose Thorn. This is not. There you go. There's the big oopla on that. Next. Yeah. Harley Quinn and Poison. Breakdown of this one. Harley Quinn's debating what it is to be good or bad through the most of this, right? And apparently Poison Ivy likes super poo. Yeah, super poo. That's what we'll call it. Lex Luthor drops off a thing of fertilizer for her. She takes a little snippet of it, and she's getting better, but she's kind of having some problems getting better or whatever. A lot of that. If you're trying to like, hey, Joey, what's the action parts in it? Yeah, there really are none until the very, very end. For some reason, Wood Rune shows up, and he's got to tell everybody how important he is, and then show them, and nobody cared. Do you ever feel like you just spend money to spend money sometimes? I know the feeling. All right, moving on. I know, I've been burning some books this week, boy. Let me tell you. Let's move on to Justice League, because Justice League was actually kind of good. Let's get Justice League here. First off, wow, this was definitely a lot better than anything else. I like the whole going against the Justice Society thing. So if you don't know, the better story in this one, we'll put it that way, is Green Lantern and Flash are hanging out with the Justice Society of America, and they're starting to talk about how they're kind of the same and different, but we're here to find this piece of comet, so we can't really spend too much time on it. I thought that was a great way to keep the reader from saying, well, wait a second, then in the 52, you guys, and then there's that issue back then. It kind of kept from getting muddled there. So we find out that the comet is actually on Pearl Harbor. By the way, the date is December 5th. Was it December 5th? Yeah, no, I'm sorry. December 4th, 1941. If you don't know, that's the date Pearl Harbor was bombed. Guess who's bombing it? Doom! Doom is showing up to drop the first set of bombs to get this piece of comet. I thought that was very cleverly written. I liked that. In the other story, Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman are hanging out with, I believe it's Camdy, because, you know, you can't get enough of that. I'm pretty sure I'm right. Anyway, they're hanging out in the future, and apparently this world is very, very hard here. He's just a boy in this, trying to survive. We find out he hadn't talked to any real humans in a very, very, very long time. And everybody needs to get over to Justice League because we find out that Brainiac actually has various futures, right, in jars, because that's his thing. Cities, jars, personalities, people. Something he's done forever. So they find out that they're in the wrong future and they got to be at that future over there. So Batman's like, okay, I know we need to get to the Hall of Justice because I got a special ship there. Of course he does. And of course it's made out of white dwarf, whatever. It doesn't really matter. And they're going to try to fly over to the other one. They're just like slingshot their way over there. Pew, pew. It also shrinks too because that would make sense, right? Pew. So they get there and we're left off there to find out what's going on there. Again, the Flash and Green Lantern story I thought were better. The Superman one was just kind of, why could Superman just fly over there real quick and everybody just go back home? Like, he didn't need to. Okay, moving on. Another good one, Deceased. A Good Day to Die. This is I'm going to say this is a tie-in because it's the number one. We get a lot of heroes. You get your bang for your buck in this one, that's for sure. We get Miracle Man and Berta. They go back and find out that Apocalypse has been blown up. right? Because you'll remember that in the actual DC series. That happened. So they're like, oh no, we're our friends back on Earth. And then we get characters that, I don't know, most people don't really care about, but every now and then it's kind of good to see them. You get Dr. Terrific. He's trying to figure out why this zombie thing's happened and trying to source it and get a solution. You got the Bro team, you know, Bros Before Heroes team of Blue Beetle and Booster Gold there. And they're trying to figure out different ways. And I love the fact, to me, this seems more like a play on tropes, right? Because it's like, okay, how do we fix it? Well, let's get magic. So, of course, they're going to go see John Constantine. He's kind of in a bit of a pickle. And he's like, yeah, no, magic's not going to fix it. I don't want to tell you guys. Sorry. Can't do it. Best to sit back and get drunk. So then they're like, oh, man, that's not going to work. Okay, so what do we do next? Okay. Well, after exacerbating all their options, you can't fight it. You can't use magic. That only leaves a sci-fi answer, right? So Brewster Gold just happens to have a time machine. That's his thing. So they're going to go check it out, and come to find out, we got a Time Lord there. He's ready to stop them. So what happens? John Constantine gets the bright idea after he's half lit to finally go be a freaking hero, he says. So he shows up and kind of starts smacking the time guy around. What happens while all this is going on? Zombies are popping up. Mr. Miracle and Berta have already been zombified themselves. Everybody's dying. Nobody's getting into the thing fast enough. And then all of a sudden, boom, Dr. Faith and Zartana show up, and they're like, Constantine, why don't you just come with us? This is done. This whole experiment of humanity and people, that's done. And he's like, nah, I think I want to hang out with my friends. Which was kind of a cool thing to do. Honestly, I really liked that part of it. I liked it. You know, Constantine's always that character. It's constantly doesn't want to do, but always does. And I kind of always like that aha moment he generally gets in it. Next, or not last, but last of my DC comics, we got Batman versus Ra's al Ghul. If you don't know, this is a play off of a plot that happened many years ago. It's kind of feeding off the cuff of that to some degree. This is stupid. Like, it was just, first off, it's horribly drawn. I'm not buying the villain in it and the way he talks. Batman even says, damn your eyes in this. Like, who talk? What? I don't know. I think what happened is good old Adams, Neal Adams, had this story already done, and like under his bed. And then DC came along and said, hey, we'll give you, X if you write us another Batman story, because everybody likes your Batman stories. And he's like, oh, okay, yeah, I'll get hard to work at that. And then, like, he did all of his weirdness, because if you never met Neal Adams, he's kind of weird. Like, he's not crazy, he's not insane, he's eccentric-ish, maybe. He's a weird guy. So he like pulled this story out from the bottom from his bed or whatever, or from another dimension or wherever he pocket dwells, and kind of pulled this out. And it was like, yeah, I'm gonna put that up over here so I don't forget it, and then I'm gonna go, make a flux capacitor or whatever the hell he believes in, and then like gave it to him and said, here you go, Neal Adams, gotcha. and then like the editor, because everybody gets an editor, right? They're reading through it, right? They're having a good time. They're like, oh man, what a great ending. Great ending, Neal, but there's a problem. It's got to be 20 pages. We need one more page, buddy. So Neal's like, okay. So there's my cliffhanger. Boom, goes out to lunch, comes back with that for no reason than just to fill a page. That's what it felt like. You can just tell when people are giving up. You really can. Like, he phoned this show correct. Like, if it wasn't something he just had laying around the house, and he's like, yeah. Boop, 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 boop. Yeah, DC guy? All right, check this out. You're the intern, right? I'm going to make you famous, son. All right, just write down everything I say. Damn your eyes! That's pretty much what happened. Even the villain says Daddy-O in it. Yeah. I would tell you the ending of the story, and I feel like I would be spoiling it. But basically, Batman fakes his own death. And Bruce Wayne shows up. Dun, dun, dun. I don't know. It's crazy. I would stop reading comic books if I didn't have fun roasting them. I really would. All right, moving on. Hey, remember that comic book that people thought would go someplace, but after like the third issue, they were like, no, no, this is horrible. Nobody's really reading this. And the only way they could get anybody to actually read the comic book is if they put like Wolverine in it or, some other interesting character. Because, look, I don't want to be rude, but nobody cares about Canada. No offense to all you Canadians out there, but like in America, we're not like, hey, what's going on in the Hockey League of Canada? Like we don't do that. That's not our thing. Um, so having your own superhero team doesn't really make much sense to me. I'm sorry. I'm about to get tons of thumbs down on this one. So what do we got here? We got 3 stories in this, and none of them are completed because, God forbid. Basically, we're just reintroducing characters to the audience because the ones that actually read this comic book never cared about them to make them memorable, and of course for new readers to sucker them in that they'll actually something. We get Puck's self-delusion that he's a bad guy. We get Talisman, and they're all doing stuff. This is a horrible review, I know, but I wish I could say more about it. Basically, all those characters from Alpha Flight from the original one, we're basically picking up where they left off. Think of it that way, right? So that's about as interesting as they were. There you go. I didn't find it interesting at all. Hey, what did you think about anything I've read so far? Make sure you comment down below. I'm going to save that one for last because that was just crazy good. Okay, next I got the Immortal Hulk, and I had to get this kind of transformation, like type cover. This is great. So Team Hulk and a couple of the Alpha Flight members, not or Gamma Flight, I think is what they're calling themselves now. Well, Puck's in there, so it's pretty much Alpha Flight. They're coming down there. Our general is still in his suit. They're battling it out, and man, so much is going on in here. We get light emitters because that's the only way you're going to down the Hulk right now. I love it when they do this kind of melting thing with him. That's fun. Samson sacrifices his life. I love this scene with Puck right here, just ripping out the brain of something and just going savage with it. A lot of good stuff in here. And that's it. Like, it's just good stuff. And then, just to make sure that they remind you that this is a horror story, you get that. Like, really? If you don't know, this is when Abomination kind of spit some fluid in Hulk's face. And he's just, like, get his stuff off me, so he's ripping off his skin. Awesome. Really good stuff. My sleeper for since it started. House of X and Powers of X. This is House of X. This is nonstop action going on through this one. Our team of X-Men are in the mother mold. They're trying to break off the collars to set this thing free so they can change the future. But what happens? Well, they all die. Spoiler alert. Except for Miss Marvel. Yeah, she's Miss Marvel in this timeline. She's not Jean Grey or Dark Phoenix or whatever the hell this week. So the only way to stop the X-Men is, of course, to set the Mother Mold alive. So the interesting stuff that actually happened in this that I found interesting is Nightcrawler and Wolverine have a very unique conversation in here that you don't really hear the X-Men saying a whole lot. And you got Wolverine asking about afterlife. As you know, Nightcrawler is very religious, Catholic to some degree, or he's Catholic, like straight across the board. And he's like, what happens when I get over there, blah, blah, blah. And Nightcrawler, in classic Nightcrawler way, goes, just open up your eyes and find me. I'll take you around. I just thought that was very heartwarming because they all know they're going to die in this. There was no real plan to get out of here. However, the Sentinel is being lit up and ready to go, and it is alive. And so we're not really sure where that's going to take us. A lot of sad stuff. I don't know what's going to happen in the next issue. I couldn't even imagine a prediction at this point. Great art. Just hero after hero sacrificing themselves to get these people to not turn this thing on, and to have all that fail was just huge. Great storytelling, great artwork in it. I'm absolutely on board with these two books now. Next, another transformation cover. Bad guy gets jacked up face, and then, ba-dum, he's doomed. Dun, dun, dun. Yeah, I thought that was cool. That was the cooler one of them. I didn't care for, like, the other ones. Just period. Um, this is Fantastic Four number 14. Basically, we get the Fantastic Four and their failed experiment to go check out another world on Marvel 1. That was a spaceship back in the day. And then after that, we get a bunch of dialogue and flashbacks from their past. Basically, we relive their origin story all over again because what's Reed Richards doing? He's making the second rocket ship so they can go complete their biggest failure and not completing that first mission, the mission that gave them powers. So what? I didn't care. This did not need to be an issue. I did not ask for this. That is weird. Speaking of things that nobody asked for, Amazing Spider-Man, the big story. If you don't know what this is a bunch of already told plot stories with extra details to them. It's 3 issues that have already, or 3 series that have already happened with some extra issues in them. That's it. They got you. They stole money from you. That is just cheap ploy right there. I wish I would have read this in there. This is not very interesting at all. And that's sad because you had great characters to play with. The first story was with Punisher. The next one was with Nightshade, right? Great character. And then the last one's so forgettable, I got to pick the book up and take another look at it. I don't know, something about, Spider-Man meeting up with Mary Jane to go on a date. Because I don't know. Nothing. It's cash grabbing. Next, The Punisher. I have not been picking up this issue. Not because I don't like The Punisher, but mostly because, check this cover out, by the way. That's just a great one. Not because I dislike The Punisher. I actually very much liked what they've been doing with The Punisher, I should say. And by the time I got around to where I could pick up issue 1, I didn't do it because I was on the road to War Realms or something like that. I was in that. I was picking up way too much to begin with. So I kind of stepped off. But then I had a few extra bucks this week. So I was like, well, let me pick it up. And I picked it up right in the middle of a story arc. But that's okay. What a story arc to pick it up in. I can't give you a clear review on the entire story in this. I can tell you what happened in this issue. We got Night Thrasher. Remember him? Yeah. We got Night Thrasher, Moon Knight, Black Widow, who else? Oh, Ghost Rider. Can't forget Ghost Rider. And not like Cosmic Ghost Rider, but just regular Ghost Rider. Going against a group of villains. And in the villains, we got a bunch of characters. Some of them I've heard of, some of them I haven't, whatever the case may be. They're fighting a war in the city. It's devastation. It's that absolutism that makes Frank Castle such a compelling character that's kind of driving him towards all this. It is absolutely just dripping greatness in this. Last but not least, Symbiote Spider-Man. This is kind of a weird story. All right, so what is this? This is hey, we wrote this story a while back, right? Oh, by the way, some other things happened in the background. This is the story. Yeah. So, guy visits New York. Guy gets infected with a symbiote for just a little bit. That plays a key role later. This is a great story of circumstances and responsibility. Your responsibility within circumstances that are beyond, even if they're beyond your control. So we have a judge. He decides to visit New York for some reason. He sees all the heroes, tends to get old. He gets infected with the symbiote. Comes back home, tries to figure out what happened because the symbiote just left him. Now, of course, this is when we find out that it went after the Amazing Spider-Man. That's how he got the suit and the whole 9 yards. But I digress. Yeah, so that happens, and then he goes into a fast food place. He's older now, whatever the case may be. And, of course, we got this crazy lady. She's yelling about a burrito at 11:45, breakfast burrito at 11:45. And the guy's like, lady, I can't do it. She starts going around, throwing a tantrum, starts kicking the crap out of him. Well, the judge is her judge, even though he saw the crime. And he even says in it, I didn't refute myself from it because, there's no sense in it, blah, blah, blah. So We go back and we find out that it's White Rabbit who's crazy. She escapes from jail, scares the hell out of the judge and the son. Son has a heart attack. Why the old man didn't, I don't know. So this obviously tears up the judge, and the judge is like, yeah, I'm gonna have to kill her. Like that's gonna have to happen. And we kind of get this scene, and then on her court date where she truly feels bad, he shows up there. But alas, the White Rabbit out trickster him, and she's got a Magna suit, robot suit thing going on. It's weird. And then she kind of tells him, hey, you and me aren't so different after all. And that drives him crazy. And, of course, he goes to jail. And, of course, him being a judge, his life isn't exactly roses there. So all of a sudden he gets this diagnosis of having cancer. He's going to die. He's kind of maybe going through parole. But then remember, he had a symbiote attached to him. That puts something very special in his spinal cord, doesn't it? The Codex. Well, don't you worry. Old Cletus finds him, and he's like, yeah, give me some of that backbone sugar. And White Rabbit's right outside watching the entire thing. And he was actually kind of okay with dying. He's like, I got cancer. Like, please, God, take me. I don't want to be in jail anymore. I have cancer. Make this end. And he's more than happy to oblige. And this makes White Rabbit throw up. Is this important to the current run? No. This is a funny little side story to kind of show how circumstances happen to people and then your choices in them. You constantly hear in this story, it's not fair. You hear it from White Rabbit. You hear it from the judge. You hear it from several other characters in it. It's not fair. Well, if you make bad decisions and unfair circumstances, then yes, it's very fair. So yeah, sometimes you just got to let things go. I think that's a lesson anybody could learn. Last but not least, my pick of the week. Oh my lord, Savage Avengers. If you missed out on this arc, look, it's only 5 issues. But this isn't a Savage Avengers story. Aha, whatever do you mean? We'll talk about that in a second. What we're going to find out is our Marrow God is technically supposed to die. We find that right off in the beginning with Gath and his entire little cult thing that he's got going on there of henchmen. Savage Avengers are on Earth. They're battling this thing. They got this really cool plan that they figured out like that because superhero words. The most sickest thing I ever saw happen in this was just totally awesome. They get the Marrow God down on the ground. Wolverine decides to stake him. It's not getting through the neck, so he's going in through the head. But his claws are out, and he can't get through there. So Conan and his little symbiote sword turn into a hammer. And then Venom shows up, and he turns his hands into a hammer, and they legitimately hit the back of his elbows to drive the spikes into his head, eventually making it explode. I was like, oh my god, I don't think I've ever seen that in a comic book before. They're literally like hammering it in. I thought that was awesome. That was just great. And then, of course, because we have a shady bad guy, that's the point, right? Because actually his death creates some sort of infection, right? Then words. So they go back to the city of Sickles to face off with the bad guy. And of course, Conan gets dropped quickly to save a life. You have to take a life, according to Brother Voodoo. He's got to put something evil in him to bring Conan back. Kind of weird. And he does. But see, Conan has a little bit of a problem with magic, right? Like, he hates magic. Every concept of it. And you really get that in here. Moving on, there's a guard that's standing at the door, because there's always some guard standing at the door. They legitimately take care of that cat quick. And if you're wondering, what is Wolverine slicing off? It's his leg. Like, from the knee down. Yeah, took that joker right off. Punisher blows open the door. Gas's about to go into a porter, chains up one of our good guys, and basically tells them, y'all can go ahead and bend a knee now. But you're going to bend a knee later. So you need to make up your minds. You've been infected. Apparently there's something in them now that at some point is going to take effect. So probably going to be getting another great arc. The biggest thing in this is after the action is done and the heroes are standing there talking about what next, we get this beautiful spread right here. And so basically what's going on here is Frank Castle's looking down at the caskets. Remember, that's what brought him there. And Conan is talking about Crom. Crom is, the god of Conan lore. And he goes, who's Crom? That you keep blabbering about. What does all this mean? So he kind of tells him. And if you've known anything about, Conan and Crom, you know that Crom does not care about you. He just breathes life into you, and then he sits over you and judges you the entire time. Kind of explains this to him. Our man Punisher kind of digs this a little bit, or at least that's what we're getting. So there's a portal that's being made to send all the heroes back. Conan's like, no, I don't do magic. That's not my thing. And then everybody's like, okay, come on, Punisher. And Punisher's like, yeah, I think I'm just going to walk home. So him and Conan start trekking through the wilds. And, of course, they're dragging their coffins. Now, why did I think this was interesting? And we're going to get some more of that goodness in an upcoming story, which is great. So why is this important? So this is a religious story to some degree. Now, I know when we think of religious stories, first off, it's too taboo to talk about. It shouldn't be. We should be able to talk freely about such things. So there is a person who knows something about a particular god or religion. So he communicates that to another individual. The individual wants to follow him through the wilderness, through the woods. And we know it's a long journey, like super long journey. Call it the pilgrimage, call it whatever you want. And they're dragging their sorrows with them, or he's helping him drag his sorrows through the wilderness. It's very religious undertone there, and I really kind of like it because it didn't really direct it to any one religion. It did tell a great story. Also, look at any religious text out there and show me one that doesn't have something to do with being in the wilderness or having that travel or that movement. Jesus, walked the day for 40 days and nights. John the Baptist did. Muhammad did. Buddha did. They all pretty much did. A shaman from Native American tales and stories, they did the same thing. It's a very common theme. So why is it a common theme? Well, it's to get you closer to your God. But what we know of Crom is Crom doesn't really want to be close to you. He does not care about you. I think we're going to get some good Crom action here, or Crom. We're going to get some good Crom action here in the next series with Punisher and Conan in this. I think that's a good team up. It's not the buddy cop type story. I think this is just two angry men that want to see things die and happen. And I think that's going to be very interesting. So those are my reads this week. What did you think? Comment down below. Let me know. What do you think? Did it make sense? Did the religious thing make sense? The kind of wanting to know more about his God, so he's going to hang out and walk with him, and he's going to help him carry his sorrows. Does that make sense? Comment down below and let me know what you think. Also, if you don't know, Blaster or Stash It is live this Sunday night, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on YouTube. We should have everybody back. That's the hope. But if you don't know, we've been having to tape the show quite regularly because of scheduling conflicts with people. But that's all squared away now. 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on YouTube. Come by, swing by, join the chat, join the show, have a beer with me, and let's talk comic books and how weird they are. I'm going to review some of my notes for that show. Maybe I'll get some more details to you about some of this other horrible stuff out there. Also, participate in the show. Let me know what you liked out of the show today. What comic books did you like? Have you read any of these? Do you read any of these? Am I missing something? Maybe I need to read it. Definitely communicate. Let me know. Be sure to like, hit the bell, because I don't know when I put a show out. I know I try to do it before Sunday in most cases. I'm getting this one out early. I'm kind of thumbs up if you're impressed. I'm not going to get a thumbs up. This is weird. But hey, guys, nobody complimented you today. You're doing fine. Just keep on going. Read your comic books. Have a good day. I'll talk to you all soon. Bye.